And I can welcome everyone to the Kipaipai Fellows 2020 exhibit preview and artist talk. This exhibition is currently at the Kahilu Theater in their galleries in Waimea on the Big Island. Thank you to Margot and Scott for doing everything, all the support work, all the installation, getting it lit. You guys rock. Thank you so much. And everyone will be able to see how beautiful it is in a minute. Let's see. We open tomorrow to the public, I think at 10. Is it 10 or 11, Margot? 10. At 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Saturdays and Wednesdays. The space is limited to 10 people at a time. Also, you need to wear a mask and practice social distancing. And I think I'm gonna just try to share my screen here and get that going so we can get started. Okay, and then we're gonna go to the beginning, and that should get us right where we want to be. Can everyone see that screen?
Yep.
Yep, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh.
What? No?
Yep.
Everyone's got it, okay. And we will do
Hi,
that.
Scott.
So I'm gonna ask everyone to please mute themselves. And then when the artist is introduced, the artist can unmute themselves and talk about their work. We're gonna try to keep it around 2 minutes for each artist. So then we're not. You're not muted. There you go. Okay. So I think we're ready to go. And welcome to Kipaipai Presents, the Fellows 2020 exhibit at Kahilu Theater in Waimea. This is the Tidal Wall for the exhibit. My name is Andy Campagnoni. I'm the director of Kipaipai Workshops. I also curated this exhibit. And hey, Joan, can you mute yourself?
Yes, I will. Hang on.
Thank you. And I also work as a curator and director at the Museum of Art and History in California. I have a home here on the Big Island, so I have a lot of ohana here, and I'm invested definitely in the future of Hawaii artists. So this comes with great pride to be able to put this together, and is very exciting. So this Tidal Wall has Margot Ray's work on it. I just lost my cursor. Here we go. And I'm just going to give you a couple of install shots of the exhibition. You'll also see Michael Shoemaker's work. And as we kind of spin around into the gallery, you're going to see Joy Ray, Gina Hardig, Kudra, who else is there? Jody Endicott. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just focus on Margot's piece right now, and she can give you a little bit of information about this work.
Hi everybody, I'm Margot Ray. So I'm an artist and I'm also the exhibits coordinator at Kahilu Theater. I'd like to thank Andy for all the hard work and enthusiasm you've put into curating this show, and everyone at Kahilu for opening this gallery, even though we can't be open for live on-site performances. So that's really exciting. And to all the artists that have participated for really believing in our program and what we're doing at Kahilu and continuing on during this time. Everyone's really put in fantastic work. And also to the State Foundation. They're going to be conducting a virtual visit all next week with the photographs and images and videos everyone have made. And they've really encouraged us from the get-go to continue with this exhibit, even when we had shut our doors in March. So that's been really great to have that encouragement. The title of this piece is Containment Landscape number 28. So this is Kiholo Bay. And this is a piece or a series I've worked on since 2006 that I do other work, and then I just I keep coming back to this series. So these landscapes that I create are kind of spiritual and energetic representations of places rather than exact depictions. The water tanks have come to symbolize to me a sense of solitude and isolation, as well as time past. I take photographs in a place and then recreate the landscape. I often take liberty to change things. In this case, the predominant flora were kiabi trees, and I changed that more to the native Milo. So in this place is a very special place to me, at Kiholo, a place I've spent a lot of time over the years. It's 5 by 5 feet. A lot of the pieces in the series are 4 by 4. So I'm going larger, which is exciting. It's on canvas, so I paint with washes with gouache, and then I layer different textured paper, and then I print out the photographs I take on a kozo paper and meticulously hand cut those, and then layer them onto the surface. So, but I think that's all I have to say for right now. And thanks everybody, and I look forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
This is beautiful work. Let's,
Thank you.
I think if you have questions, does anyone have any questions for Margot right now? Nope, okay. So we will move on. And this is a long shot of the installation. And you can see this is one half of the installation. The other half is on the other side of the theater. And the next artist that we're going to be talking to and is Michael Shoemaker. He's the sculpture that's right here. And obviously I didn't get one in the gallery because I haven't been there yet. So this is an image in his sculpture garden on the Hilo side of the Big Island. And if you ever get a chance to visit him, you definitely need to do that. He has a fantastic, beautiful 5 acres. It might even be bigger than that, of a sculpture garden that is just gorgeous, just off the ocean. And Michael, are you here?
I am.
Oh, great. You want to tell us about this piece?
Sure. Thank you, Andy and Margot and everyone for all the work you've put in. It shows it looks like a beautiful show. I hope to get up there shortly. So this piece, if anyone saw the video, I'll be a little repetitive, but this piece started on a Saturday afternoon when I was going through a difficult period, and just went to the shop and made this piece out of wood. I carved it to give it some character, and it sat in the house for a year, and I just was very drawn to the shape. And so I decided that, hey, if it worked that well, it would work well huge. So what you see behind this piece is an 8-foot version. I entered it in a show in Colorado Springs, and they had it there for a year and bought it for their permanent collection. So it sits in front of the Pikes Peak Performing Arts Center there. The X has so many different meanings. It's from X marks the spot to the X of hugs and kisses. But for me, it was the X from mathematics, the X we solve for. It represents all that we do not know. I get asked many times why the polished surfaces, and I'm not a bling sort of person. This is much more about the contrast between the most dead material there is and trying to create from it things that have the spark of life. And that's kind of where the polish comes from. There's also, of course, the fun in it, the humor. There's a lot of humor in my work, and I enjoy that aspect of it. This was all done with hammers. It's all very old school. None of my work is done with computers or anything. It's all basic techniques. Does anyone have any questions? I think that pretty well covers it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Like you said that you did this by hand. What is the surface then? And I just assumed it was cast. So how did you go about doing this by hand and not and making the surface so smooth?
This is stainless steel, okay? And it's just polished stainless steel. It has no coating on it or anything. It's not chromed, but this is made from sheet metal. And this I did not do personally, okay? I use a fabricator. I've done work myself with metalsmithing and hammers all my life, but sculpture is very typical to create a model and then have it fabricated from there. It's just the difficulty of doing something to scale personally.
Especially since your pieces tend to be on the small side at 8 feet to 9 feet, which is small for you.
Yes.
So imagine you personally trying to make that and hammering that piece alone would be quite difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
These pieces, like the ones that the one you see behind, was a group of 6 guys working for 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to continue on in the exhibition here and the layout. The piece that you're looking at in this installation, the long fiber piece, is by artist Joy Ray. And I think I have 2 large installation pieces here to show you of this work so you can get an idea. And Joy, are you ready?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. And Andy, thank you so much. And Margot and Scott in the Kahilu Theater, thank you. And everyone that's on the call. This is really great. I'm so excited to see this in person tomorrow. So this piece is called Plague Manifesto, and it's really meant as a kind of poetic visualization of this time of COVID here in Hawaii. And it's really a blend of, you know, both data and emotion. So if you see it from, I don't know, Andy, if there's a shot of it from the side, but the shape of the structure is the shape of the graph of COVID cases in Hawaii. So if you imagine this kind of flipped, they've been going up in recent weeks, as all of us here know, of course, sadly. The piece on the top, the textile piece, is basically a monumental collage. It's about 20 feet long and 4 feet wide and made up of all kinds of you know, textures that are sort of reminiscent of lava, made out of paint and sand. There's different marks on it: string, twine, chalk, handmade beads, and really sort of exploring this idea of the quality of our life right now, where everything feels very uncertain and mysterious and maybe a little ominous at times. And there's a red element on it for every life that's been lost during this time of COVID. So that's 75 total up to when I finished the piece. So it's the piece itself, it's 8 feet tall, it's 12 feet long, and then the textile piece is, as I said, 20 feet long. So
I think I have one more image here that shows one of the red markers for the loss of life.
I am.
I think also, Andy, there was a couple of comments. One of them was from Marn. She said, "Great title for the times. I hope this becomes an important part of the record of Hawaii's experience of this pandemic."
I think it's a beautiful visual documentation of the translation of data, and there's yeah. Folks, can I just remind you to please mute yourself? we love having everyone here
On it.
hard when you're talking. This is a very beautiful visualization of, you know, the loss of life, and also I think the personalization of every single mark that's made on this is so human and really addresses humanity and all of the kind of secret code and the pieces that have been sewn into this over time, and how all of these each sections address a different part of the data of what's happening with COVID specifically and Hawaii. So this is a really great piece. Thank you, Joy.
Thanks.
We're gonna move on. Oh, did anyone have any questions for Joy?
I did see that Marcia had posted, she said, I got very emotional looking at your art, Joy. And, you know, it's interesting how you laid out the explanation. Also, Dina, she said that she's amazed and she loves the piece because essentially it just makes it real. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna move on to the next piece in the installation. Here's some more installation. I think these three artists, it looks like Gina Hartig, Kudra Clover, and also Jody Endicott. And if Gina is available,
I'm ready. I am ready. It's a hard act to follow, Joy. Yeah, it's really wonderful to see the hand, and I think that Joy's hand in her work, and I like to do the same. I like for the work to seem, and it is all hand made, even though it's collected of things. The essence of my work is really focused on invisible forces in the universe that shape and create our world, and also destroy it and recreate it. And so this emergent action is kind of what I'm looking for in the energy of it. And what I do is I try to seize these defining moments of when the action is occurring, and weave together vignettes or little narratives that capture this intensity and also the beauty of transformative energy, or this moment in time. This work is called Emit, and it was completed in the spring of this year. And it speaks really to the disruption and the power of the recent emanation of Kilauea. Still active here on Big Island, and but how that occurrence really changed a finite moment in many of our lives here, how it affected us directly, and all of the community. Yet it restored in us, it reminded us and kept us connected or thinking about our Aina and how it is alive and how we are connected to it in real live ways. And that's also part of our ancestral beginning. In it, you can see the dynamic forces in this play.
I'm going to shut mine off. We're getting echoes.
Hello? of the tubing. You know, the tubing is just kind of going everywhere, but embedded in it is in the construct are these everyday items, these very commonplace items. And they kind of suggest the human displacement that occurred during that time. And also each of the works that I make involve a conflict of sorts, brought about by our interaction. In this case, not directly, but almost as you know, the backlash of it. And it focuses on nature and communicates our connection to it. The process and the surprising mystery of our negligence and kind of our ignorance of it.
Hold on, we have a couple people that are not muted. Suzanne's iPhone needs to be muted. Thank you.
Done.
Yay. Anyway, that's about Emit. And what drives this a lot is, you know, that we recognize that the same forces that and processes that shape all of the universe are also the same things that shape all that is alive, all that lives, including ourselves. And that if we continue to focus on that interconnectedness that we have with it, we realize that we're all linked together. And it's this harmonious balance, or this, what would you say, kind of well, yeah, just a buoyancy that occurs during this balance that we have, this harmony that we have with nature. And if we can keep that in our insights, that if that, you know, we can reconcile with that, with our treatment and our interaction with the universe and our global community, we really need to kind of think about that. You know, I mean, that's kind of the collective message in the work, is that that unity, the buoyancy, the sort of positive buoyancy that happens, the harmony inside that conflict. So it's kind of held together.
Yeah, that's so great. I love this work, Gina. I love all of your sculptures. It was really hard to choose one for the show. You have a second one that is one of my favorites, that appears to be black coral, that is also very stunning. And it has this kind of swirl of the man-made within it, as this one does. But thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Gina about this work?
I have a comment. This is the second time I've worked with Gina installing her work, and everything you said, talking about this balance and the buoyancy, is really reflected in how you make it and even install it. So it looks like this kind of chaotic explosion, but it's this very well crafted, meticulously planned out sculpture. So I just wanted to add that in, that the meaning and what you talk about just kind of happens on every level. So
thank you, Margot. Thank you.
That's awesome.
There's also a comment from Stella Newman, and what she says is there are so many pieces of this that speak to history. That framed piece in the back, the fan, we see pieces of this, of us in this.
Sweet.
Right.
She gets it. Mahalo.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. Let's see.
you.
We are going to move on, and is Kudra online here?
Kudra.
I didn't see her. One more time, Kudra, are you here? If you are, please unmute yourself. If not, that is okay. No problem. She's on Maui. By the way, I think I neglected to mention that all of the artists in this exhibit are Hawaii artists, that representing Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island. Kudra is on Maui, and here's a detail. Here's an installation shot, and here's a detail of her piece. This piece is on silk, and it is all hand dyed. She has a proprietary formula that process that she uses in her dyed silk pieces. This work is pretty fantastic in person, so I definitely encourage everyone to go see this show in person. Kudra is right now working feverishly on a very large solo exhibit for the Museum of Art and History in California, which we're very excited about. And it will be the first time that we have brought a Hawaii artist to the museum for a solo show. So we're really excited. Her work, usually she makes the bodies of work based on where the exhibition will go, as a form of engagement into whatever the local flora and fauna is, and addresses the seeds the plants, the environment, and so on and so forth. So the work that I think for this piece obviously is a Hawaii piece, but the work that she'll be doing for the museum in California will be addressing the high desert and all of the flora and fauna in the high desert. And I'm sorry she's not here to talk about this right now because this is great work. Remind you to all go and look at this in person. Let's see, our next artist is Jody Endicott. Are you here, Jody? You have to unmute yourself. I know you're here. There she is.
I got it. Thanks. All right. This is called Boron Green, and it's made from many different found objects throughout my journey over the last several years, whether I was at the beach or a parking lot. And it shows the invasive boar juxtaposed with nature, and the po hina hina, the plant, the Hawaiian flower, is off to the left here. So you see the breath of the boar, which is kind of symbolic. Cool. Where are we? And the pieces are all collected, and they're all things that have been, well, at one time we wanted them, and then we used them, and then we discarded them. And the thing that I found that was really interesting about this work, and I didn't really realize it until I started writing this up, was that we pass these pieces all the time. On our sidewalks, on our roads, you know, and they're just isolated single pieces of trash. But what I found was once they are together, they're not in solitude anymore, they become a lot more powerful. There's a conversation that happens between all these different pieces. So anyway, I'll take you through a few of them. You can see a slipper, the bottom of a slipper, or a tennis shoe here, a piece from a sunglasses, a pair of sunglasses, pair of scissors, you see half of that. The tool, the wooden tool that makes the top of the boar's neck, has some Japanese writing on it that says handmade. And you'll see netting and different pieces of plastic and lots of shards of things. And I just found there was something really beautiful when they all went together. But I was really sad when I see them, because this has been, many of these things have been around for so long, just staying in our environment, floating in our oceans. And so I put, the very last piece that I put in is this plastic piece that says why. And I ask, why? Why are we still doing this? Why are we doing this to our environment? And why are we doing this to ourselves? And is it indicative of, you know, our throwaway society of not just our materials that we use, that we find are essential or that are desired, but perhaps just as we just heard, you know, in COVID, we're looking at how are we not taking care of our people, and we're not taking care of our environment or our people now. So these are all symbolic of that. So that's pretty much what I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. This work is really outstanding, and I can't wait to actually go to Oahu and do a studio visit with you for the work, because of the three-dimensional element to all of it. Does anyone have any questions?
There were some really intriguing comments. A lot of comments, actually, Jody, about the scissors that you used for the eye. Maybe that's, you know, we all relate to that as artists.
Oh, right.
With
Yeah,
scissors. Marn wrote great commentary on our lack of foresight and taking care of the environment. It speaks to all ages, very successful and beautiful. So you got a lot of Kipaipai fans.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to mention Margot, Andy, and everyone I'm seeing on Fridays. I'm just so grateful to be part of this group and get the input that I'm, you know, looking at all of your work is really, we're all Kipaipaing, we're all becoming inspired, and I know I am. And I just wanted to say thanks for this opportunity. Here I live in Hawaii, and it's been so long since I've been to the Big Island, so I must reconnect. So thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure. All right, let's see. We are going to move forward here, and there's another detail of Jody's piece. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
In the context of Stephanie Sachs' work, she is an artist on Maui. Let me see if I can figure out why I can't see my button here. There it is. Okay. And here is a detail of the painting. Stephanie, are you there?
I am here, thank you. And I agree with everything you said, Jody, about being part of this community. I'm so thrilled, thank you. And I am Stephanie Sachs, and I paint Radical Joy. This painting has been done very recently. I've been reigniting my love for gardening, and I've been in my garden a lot during this time. And I am an intuitive painter, so I start and I let things happen. And I feel like this painting really came about because of all the work I've done to reach this point. When I was in my 20s, I drew thousands of portraits on Front Street in Lahaina, and I did them in 5 minutes. And it really, I'm looking back now and I realize that's what gave me a very confident stroke, a very confident gesture. And then I did a lot of watercolor, and that's what allowed me to let things flow, because before that I was, a tighter painter, and I really learned how to let things flow and let things evolve. And so this painting and most of my paintings are now a layer of acrylic, and then which I do think about like a watercolor, even though they're much bigger most of the time than a watercolor would be. And I let the paint flow and see what's happening, and it's very energetic at that time. And I really try to listen to my intuitive voice telling me what to do. And then after that, there's usually 5 to 10 layers of oil paint on top, and that allows me to build up the luminosity. And this one really happened quickly, which I find some of the most exciting things for me to have happen. And my best friend wrote a little poem about it, so I'd like to read that. It's called Mastering the Moment. There was a time in the garden where no time passed, lush with luxury of dark soil and fresh seed. We farmed all the colors that could be perceived. Innocent of mud and shadows, children made of sky, arose, took flight, and there began the circle of day and night.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, thank Laura Sabatello.
Great job. Thank you, Steph. Are there any questions for Stephanie?
There's this comment from Jeannie Dunn. She said, "Hey guys, extraordinary misconceptions tonight." Anyway, she can't get into Zoom, so.
How'd she make that comment?
I don't know. Thanks, Mike and Catherine, for helping me. Blah blah.
Oh, she's in.
Oh, okay. All right.
Maybe she's in. So we're moving along.
Okay. So, and no questions. Okay. Are we raining now? Okay.
So we're moving on.
Okay, I'm gonna find the button here and move us around the room. So now you are standing at the back of the gallery, looking back towards how we came in, and the work on the opposite wall. The work to the left, the fiber work, is Michelle Schwengel. And I believe we have Alex Kallenberg, Scott Yole, and Bailey Ferguson. So I'm going to see if I can get this button to flip around here so you can see these pieces. Super dynamic. And also very different work. And I think, Michelle, are you there?
I'm here, aloha.
Yeah, let's talk about your work first. And I obviously haven't had a chance to get in there yet and photograph your pieces individually. So the details that I have will be just the working images that you gave me as we were curating the show. But I think you can kind of speak to that. I think people will get the gist, and hopefully that will be intrigued enough to go actually see the work. Go ahead and talk about this body of work.
Sure thing. Thanks, Andy, and mahalo to the Kahilu Ohana. To give a little background on my path here, I've always been into science, but I've always had a dual inclination toward art. For 15 years, I worked as a science illustrator, but I sought a more independent regime, and I decided to transition to be a full-time studio artist. So natural history and science continue to be the driving forces in the art I make. And to my good fortune, I've participated in 2 artist residencies within scientific expeditions. The first one was a voyage across the Pacific, studying the ocean's oxygen content. And the second one took me to Antarctica. There I was scuba diving under the sea ice, drawing the marine life and ice formations I saw in this super cooled environment. And since then, I've continued to make work that revolves around the health of the ocean, the marine life within it, and the relationships that humans have with these ecosystems. In this knitted textile series called States of Matter, I have shifted my focus from data and details to instead depict water in a more abstract manner as solid, liquid, and gas. In the ice panel that's up right now, I see both the vast Antarctic landscape as well as the layers of snowfall that got compacted into an ice core. In the water panel, do you have that, Andy?
Yes, hold on.
In the water panel, I used gradients of color seen along the shorelines of the Hawaiian archipelago, or also referencing the long view that I got under the sea ice in that crystal clear Antarctic water. In the air panel, the next one, colorless water vapor takes the form of clouds, as well as some fuzzy, polluted atmosphere closer to the horizon. The bottom rows on each panel are all unraveling, much as our environmental regulations are being dismantled by powerful business interests and climate change deniers, but still I knit hope into every stitch. So while fiber is one of my favorite media, I enjoy its flexibility and mobility, I can't wait to see where else it takes me. Who knows, it's such an adventure. Mahalo.
We can't wait either. Every time I meet with you, something really amazing happens and you come up with these really, really insightful, poignant pieces, and it's such a pleasure to see what you come up with next. So I can't wait. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle?
It seems like there's a lot of response to the fact that Michelle is using the, within the woven pieces, she's using these words, and she's gotten tremendous response to that. So brava, Michelle.
Thank you.
I want to also point out Michelle's work is very data heavy. I'm personally a fan of data in the use in creative and artistic making. And there's several artists in this show that are using data in that way. And I think as we kind of move through the landscape that we're in right now, both political, emotional, psychological, that data is going to be very important in what that is, and having artists be able to visually translate that into an emotive piece is really important. I will look back at 2020 and we'll see a lot of work that deals with data, and hopefully 50 years or 100 years from now, we'll understand what this culture was dealing with in this time. Not literal references of, like, you know, pictorial landscapes and photographs and figurative work, but that we actually data is meaningful, and it does make a difference. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have the next piece. You can see kind of the changes from those photographs. I mean, yeah, you see the air piece now of Michelle's, and it does feel, obviously the palette and the photograph is much better. So you can get a better sense of what those pieces look like. Alex Kallenberg's painting is in the center, and then we also have Scott Yole's installation piece to the right. And I believe, Alex, are you available?
I'm here.
All right. You want to talk about your piece?
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. Man, not an easy one to follow. That was incredible. Thank you. So first of all, thank you to everybody involved. Andy and Margot, the Kahilu Theater, all the artists. I think not only does the show look beautiful, but there's a heavy sense of, like, amazing mana that is flowing through that gallery space without saying. So I'm glad to be part of it and incorporated in the show for sure. So anyway, thank you for that. My paintings are basically, they're snapshots, they're moments that deal with time and place, There's a lot of things that encompass what I do. Not only do I make paintings, I also do sculpture, I do work on paper, I do printmaking. So for me, my love is just creating images, and the where that comes from is basically, what encompasses my visual landscape, things that I see out in nature, things that I see out in the world. They're heavily influenced by geometry, and the, contradictory to that, the land, sky, the ocean. I pull from those elements when I think about color palette. The paintings, how they are made, if I can kind of quickly touch on that, they're very much in the moment. So I talked about time and place, but the moment is really important to me in the studio, because these paintings are, they're just singular investigations of what I find interesting. I don't think that this painting specifically captures everything that I do and that's important to me. They're all, it's one painting to the next, to the next, to the next, and all of a sudden you have a body of work that starts to kind of speak to what you wanted to say. But the process in the studio of actually making the work, they're very much in the moment. I listen to the process. One shape requires a second one, which calls out to a third one. Then all of a sudden you have some language going on, some conversation between myself and the painting. And, at that point, it starts to speak to me. It kind of tells me what it needs, where it wants to go. And I just continually, keep feeding the painting. And I work with a lot of things that are important to me. Patterning, references a lot of things in my life, but at the same time, there's order, there's even growing up, my dad was from Indonesia. There's a lot of patterning in that culture. So that to some degree tells my story. But looking at sarongs and batik patterns and stuff like that. So a lot of the line work, the stripes, the chevrons, kind of pay homage to that side of my life. But then again, the shapes I use, the line work, I think a lot about light and space. I think about how that affects the picture plane and creating these sort of illusions of pushing and pulling. And again, you can read into it and you can say, well, I see elements of the ocean in there. I see elements of the land in there. Maybe, who knows, there's a hit of that orange, maybe references volcano or the flow, and you're right on all of those. It's all encompassing. It talks to a lot of things that are important to me in terms of my visual landscape and vocabulary. And again, I'm just excited to put this piece in the show, and I think it, I think it has a nice place on the wall next to everybody else. So I'm honored to be in the show. So thank you.
I wonder if you want to speak to your connection in your process with surfing, because I know that you are an avid surfer,
Yes.
both, and a big waterman, and the kind of process of moving paint around and how those two things relate.
So there's a lot of connection that happens there. For one, for me, I'm always pursuing the idea of losing track of time. I think a lot of artists feel that when they're in the studio and they get so wrapped up and involved in the process that all of a sudden 4, 5, 6 hours have gone by and what just happened. I think that's some magic, and you can't really put a formula on that. You can't really describe it other than just going through the process. I also find that when I go out surfing, in the fact that when I'm in the water and in the elements, time stands still for me. Like my connection to reality is just really in the moment. I'm super focused on what's going on, but the idea of time is kind of out the window. But the process is very similar. How surfers will ride waves, and each wave is a very unique experience for a surfer. Each wave being different than the next one, than the one before. And a surfer needs to react and respond to what's happening. If it's a big wave, they ride the wave different. If it's a small wave, they ride it different. If it's hollow and there's a tube, and if it's breaking, everybody does kind of different things to a wave. And I see that, kind of echoing in my studio practice, in that a painting is the same thing. You put down one mark, it calls for another, it calls for a third, it calls for a fourth. And that process is exciting to me. It's spontaneous. It's in the moment, and I feel really alive when that happens, when it's all working and clicking. And that's really what I enjoy about surfing, what I enjoy about art. It's very much connected.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Alex?
I see that Ray Beldner had commented. He says that to Alex, he said, I see the influence of light and space artists.
Yes, Ray, you're very much right. I think too, you know, within the last couple of years, I've started bringing in spray techniques. So again, even the components in the painting tend to contradict each other. I work with a lot of tape. There's a lot of geometry, a lot of hard edges. There's a lot of hand pulled edges where the paint drags and skips and marks and you know, on top of these sort of backgrounds that are sprayed and very atmospheric, and you know, they're almost like fantasy-ish in a way. So, but they definitely reference light and space. If you look at air and you think about air qualities and maybe pollution, or, you know, the time of the day, the way the sun is in the sky, you know, reflective light is big in the work too. They're all moments that we all can relate to on some level. You might not see them every day, but you can, you know, you can definitely connect to what's going on with
it's the precision in the work that reminds me of like early Robert Irwin or something like that.
Right.
Some of those.
Well, you know,
dudes.
for me, it is a craft. And as much as I talk about being in the moment and listening to the signs and being spontaneous, that is super calculated. You know, I edit a lot, even though I am in the moment. I'm not lazy with the marks. The marks all have purpose. And, you know, these paintings are highly edited. So I do listen to the moment, but they are very organized. And that's what I enjoy, is sort of putting those contradictory ideas together and stirring them up and getting what I get.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks, Ray, for that observation. Any other questions? Okay, well, we will move on. And we are now going to speak with Scott Yole. You're there, right, Scott? Unmute yourself.
There we go.
There you are, yeah, okay.
All right, yeah, all right. First of all, I'd say thank you, Andy, for curating the show, and Margot for all her hard work put into the show, and Chelsea Tarnas, one of our employees, part of the theater, and all the theater staff. It's great to see. They've done a lot of work on the gallery through COVID time, which has been really exciting, with new walls and new things. And this is the first exhibition in this gallery space since it's been redone. So it's super exciting. Let's see, for me, this piece is titled Our Children Inherit Our Dreams. I work intuitively, but that intuition is like augmented with deep field research, whether it's literary, material, you know, process oriented. For me, it's like, I don't know, during this COVID time, I revisited a bunch of sketchbooks and things that I've written down. So when I talk about that intuition, it could be something, you know, that I read in a book. It could be something I saw when I was walking or running. It could be a zombie movie that, you know, is something, a scene from there. For me, there's this lyric from a Tragically Hip album. There's a song in there called Fiddler's Green. And in that, I wrote this lyric that said, balloons all filled with rain. And to me, it's just like struck this chord in me that this is like one of the saddest things that have ever been written. And for me, it's always something that I have kind of revisited in my head over the years. And it was kind of going back into those sketchbooks and seeing that. And what I do when you know, there's this intuition, usually it's something I can't let go of, like whether it's an object I found in a thrift store, but that lyric just kind of held true to me. And in that song, you know, doing research about that song, it was a song that they never performed. It's only on one album. And it's a personal song about the tragedy of a mother losing a child. And I thought there was this really kind of beautiful connection to this time. For me, I kind of use material language or material culture as language, I should say. I think all different materials say something different. Like Foucault translates better for me in French than it does in English. It makes more sense. So I see the same thing, whether it's, you know, materials as, you know, cast plastics, cast concrete, ribbon, all the colors, everything are choices in trying to express the idea or something that I'm trying to convey. In this particular piece, I had this, you know, just the experience of the balloon and thinking about the history of the balloon as a universal symbol. Thinking of it as this something that's impermanent, its fragility, You know, it's referenced in like so many, you know, different, you know, it's Tim O'Brien's The Thing They Carry. There's all these different references, you know, to A Strange World in literature. At the same time, I was thinking about the native birds here, and a couple of things that happened one day was at work seeing a nene get crushed by a car that was speeding by in a, you know, please slow down, you know, nene zone, you know, Hawaiian goose crossing, seeing an albatross dead on the beach with its intestines blown out down in South Point filled with plastic. Going for a run and seeing a mongoose, you know, attacking a native bird and killing it. And just really thinking about these things, you know, these intentions we've had of whether things have been changed through, you know, introduction of invasive species, climate change, you know, these things have kind of, you know, decimated the bird population here in Hawaii. And there's something that's so fragile about life. And for me, I really wanted to kind of take these ideas and meld them into this installation and sculpture. At the same time, the gesture of the hand, if you go back to that last image, Andy, you know, it's a child, you know, holding a bouquet of balloons that are popped, but the gesture also references, you know, the way a hunter carries birds tied by their legs. Or on their belts. They tie them after they've killed them and tuck them in their belt or carry them around. As well as in different cultures, we hang dead birds by their feet or by their necks. And, you know, when the leg falls off or head falls off, it's ripe and ready. It's ready to eat or prepare. So there's kind of a morbid quality to it. At the same time, kind of like a pop sensibility, which I often use, like a, you know, pop surrealism, I guess I would say, in my work. It's kind of allows people, you know, you don't need a PhD to walk into the piece to get it. And that's something that's very important to me.
I wanted you to speak to also the height at which this piece was installed, because I think that's really important to kind of the meaningfulness of it.
Well, for me, it was, I wanted it to, well, it's hung at the height of a child. Where a child would hold it, or my daughter actually would hold it. It's actually, we cast my daughter's hand, and I had cast her hand a couple of years ago as well for a sketch that I was working with this particular piece. And so for me, it was really, I loved a few things that were happening in the whole installation on that wall. You know, I loved the lines of the ribbons in relation to Alex's painting. And then I loved the string that was going down to the floor. You know, and the textile piece, and I love that simple, the fact that these other pieces are on the wall, but things were down, kind of challenging, just where people are looking in the space and on the wall. So
it's beautiful. It's such a great piece. This is one of those ones I hope to own if you make a second one. Let's see. We'll go.
Wow.
Any questions for Scott?
Let me just say that Michelle wrote, I think, an interesting point. She said that recently heard news, and I think a lot of us have, of thousands of migratory birds being found dead in New Mexico, which speaks to that as well. So powerful, Scott. And Marn said the piece is haunting and needed, an environmental cautionary tale framed as children's story. So you got a lot of fans, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Andy.
Great piece. Super big fan. And we're gonna move on, let's see, to Bailey Ferguson's painting. Bailey, are you there?
Thank you so much, Andy.
Oh, you need to speak up. We can't hear you.
Oh, my dear. Okay, sorry about that. Let me see if I plug in. I'm so sorry. All right, hopefully this is better. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay, hopefully this is better.
A little bit better.
Okay, good, thank you.
Much better.
Much better.
Awesome. So thank you. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this show and really so honored. It is such a beautiful show, and the new gallery walls are beautiful. Thank you, Kahilu. Thank you for the install team. And Andy, I'm just so thrilled. And it gave me the opportunity to go big, which is something that I've heard a lot of feedback for my work, is to try to go big. And so I did that. And so this is my biggest painting I've ever done. It's 4 feet by 10 feet long, and it's called Alinui Haha Channel. And it is the channel that is between Hawaii and Maui Island. And so there's a few things that inspired this painting. And the first thing is, in 2018, I was displaced by the Kilauea eruption, and I was away from my studio for about 70 days, actually, and living in temporary homes and being away from my art studio setup. I started to take on a new style of art. I was kind of grabbing whatever was around me, and this style that you see here, like these washes, bold brush strokes, acrylic paints. These are things that I did not use before in my art. And so shortly after that, I came to my first Kipaipai workshop and was really encouraged to continue the style. And so it's been a really wild, almost 2.5 years, and I'm really thrilled as to where we're going. And so the second thing that happened was through a friend on Kipaipai, I was encouraged to apply for an artist at sea and a residency at sea. And I was awarded that residency. And so I sailed from Honolulu to Fiji, 14 days at sea. We mapped the sea floor on a research vessel. And this opportunity revealed to me a new landscape that was below the sea surface. And that sort of idea has been a continuous thread in my work since then, since last year. And so in this painting, I was really interested in showing not only the channel, but also how the channel is a barrier. And so the diptych reinforces that, but also showing the seafloor basin, the mountains, or the volcanoes that is also that is also shaped by the channel. And so just another thing, so in my work, I use these bold swatches of colors and these and hatches, and these hatches visually reference like turbulence, change, and energy. And I just think it's a nice way to keep the eye moving through the piece. And the other thing that I was really thinking about in this piece is how my process of layering, I put down paint, I take it up, I cover it up. I really think of this process as almost as a symbolic reference to the layering of Hawaii shield volcanoes. Destroying land, creating new, and it's almost, I kind of go through that process until I'm happy with the results of the painting. So I guess I was thinking about that during this painting as well. And then, the last thing that I'd like to speak to is just, the aha moment I had for creating this painting was going fishing out of Honokahau Harbor, which is my home harbor here in Kailua Kona. When we fish and we head north towards the Alinui Haha Channel, the waves and the wind can really begin to pick up. And one particular time it got so bad, and I got seasick straight away, which I typically don't get seasick. And so, that channel really left a mark on me. And I wanted to kind of reference this sort of site-specific area of Honokahau. And when I'm out there, there's a really unique panoramic view where you see clouds above Lanai, you see the Haleakala peeking through clouds on Maui, and then you can see 4 of the 5 Hawaii volcanoes all in one panoramic view. It's really a unique sight. And so in a sense, I'm trying to speak to that in this painting as well. And so it's not a true north vantage point of the 2 islands. And it's aerial, and it's also sort of like this northeastern view. So that's the spiel I have for you.
I love the additive and reductive process that you do, which is exactly like what happens here on our islands. As the volcano adds, the ocean reduces, the wind reduces, the rain reduces, and then the volcano adds again. I love that is mimicked in your process, and not like purposely, but it works, right?
Yeah. It's a total of like erosive. It's an erosion process. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Couple
Really
of comments, Andy,
comments?
if we have a minute, yeah?
Yes.
Marn, I can feel the entire channel in this painting. And enjoy, Ray. Are there detail shots? The texture of this piece is incredible. Val Kim says, love this, love the expression of the channel and the two very different points of location. Ray Beldner, so much movement. Jeannie Dunn, Bailey Ferguson, this is an amazing coming together of forces. Kristen Shiga, I remember your application to Kipaipai that year. So moving. I love the work you've been doing. Can't wait to see it in person. Stella Newman, the hatches, movement, changes, dynamic.
Wow, thank you guys.
And there's a ton of them. I can't take time to read them all, but this will be recorded. You'll have, they keep coming in. So well done, Bailey.
Thank you so much. Oh, awesome. Mahalo.
Any other questions for Bailey? Okay, thanks, Bailey. We're gonna move on to the other gallery. This is the other side of the second gallery. In this installation, you see Marcia Pasqua's work and also Caroline Killauer's work. And I think that, Marcia, are you available? You have to unmute yourself if you're there.
Yes, I am available.
There she is. Let's see, let me see if I have a better, yeah, that's a better image of your work.
Okay.
I don't have a detail, obviously I haven't been to the space yet, so I haven't been able to take a single an image, which we'll probably try to photograph at night. But I think this is the best one in the daytime.
Okay, thank you. So this piece is part of a series that I call the Family Tree Series. This tree is actually in the property where my grandparents lived. And as a child, I grew up playing under that tree, and so it had a lot of meaning to me. I've been drawing and painting this tree for years, and it sort of has become a way for me to express my feelings about the family, which is why it's called the Family Tree. I've gone through grief, deaths, divorces, births, all kinds of wonderful things and not so wonderful things in life, and I always go back to this tree to process it. This particular piece was done because the family has put the property on the market for sale. So I see it as a whole part of my life, just changing with time and sort of moving away.
Do you want to speak to your process? I think most people are familiar with your printmaking and how this piece is part of that studio practice.
Sure, yes. So this is a monoprint, which means that I had a drawing that I did behind plexiglass, and then I painted the tree in 3 different sections, and it is painted on tarlatan, which is obviously a very transparent fabric. And I first of all put it through the press, but then I needed to rub it down with basically a wooden spoon in order to get the richness that I was looking for. So
it's a stunning piece.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
It's really beautiful being able to see it in the space and moving through and seeing through it. And as you move, you'll see the trees and the mountain behind it. And yeah, it's really great in the space. And then just being a printmaker myself, imagining printing on that scale on tarlatan is pretty mind-blowing. So it's, I think, deceivingly very labor intensive and well crafted.
Thank you.
And I think it's interesting, Marcia, because as a printmaker as well, you're printing on tarlatan, which is a tool of the printmaker. So it's like you're taking the materials that make art to make art on those materials. So there's an interesting connection that's unique maybe to the medium.
And actually I tried all types of fabric, but that was just the one. And so it's interesting that it happens to be something that's just part of our regular tools. Thank you. And I also want to echo what other people said before. This has been a wonderful experience being with Kipaipai, and I'd like to thank Margot and Andy and everyone who was involved in putting this wonderful exhibit together. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure, I promise. Thank you, Marcia. That's really great. I love this piece, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, we have to have this in the show. This is so special. And especially this room, this gallery is a little more literal about nature. So there's a—
I was gonna ask about that, because the place that you chose to put this, when you see the reality of life behind
right
the image that's hanging there, it's priceless. It's like you see what the artist is thinking, and then behind it is the reality of life. It's gorgeous. Perfectly placed. I love it.
Automobiles, streets.
Yeah, automobiles, streets, buildings, whatever, and then there's the ethereal permanence of the tree. It's just gorgeous. Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you. Ciao.
Stella. All right, I think we are on to Caroline Killauer.
Aloha, everyone, and I want to add my thanks to Margot and Andy and Scott for all the work that went into this show, and it's really awesome to be part of it. This is a print of mine. It's a relief print, so everything that's white is carved away, and then the rest of the block is inked up and printed. In here, there's like a lot of, it goes back to kind of the environment in Maui. It goes from the sky all the way down through the mountains and the water. And that kind of harkens back to this idea of the realms in, they have like, in Hawaiian religion, there's different realms of the gods, and they live in different places. And there are some that can kind of go through all the different realms. So this is part of a series that I'm working on. And most of the animals and flora in there is all native species. So you have the apapane and the moth, and different fishes, and the ohia, and tons of different animals all integrated into that. In terms of like technique or references that influence this, Japanese printmaking and the idea of flattening space. So I try to flatten the space a lot, and then sometimes I go back and then push it and add it more dimensionally. I also love the idea of, in just Japanese culture, they take important objects and they make them into symbols, and some are adapted for their houses or different things. But so then I take these different things like water or certain important animals, and I reduce them to kind of a symbol, and then I repeat them through the work. I start out doing a whole lot of sketches and also photographs, and then I sometimes just tear them up and then put them together and then redraw kind of what I did. Let me think.
Well, I love how you use the natural patterning in so many of the literal plants as design. And you just mentioned the kind of visual language of nature, like the patterning from the ferns that are there, and like the fern, what are they called? The sprouts of them when they open up. I'm totally blanking right now. Anyway, there's beautiful patterning that's happening in all of this from nature's patterning. And then you've put the literal illustrative version of nature over it. So the bird, the plant, the leaf, the tree trunk, this is really fantastic. It almost has like a tapa patterning in it. And also, like, if you were to cross that with like Japanese tattoo, right? They have, there's this like merging between the two.
Yeah, and then I try to create a rhythm, and I try to make black and white kind of as important as color. So within there, there's like really quick rhythms and then really slow ones, and they kind of go back and up and down, and that sort of goes back to the realm of the gods, because there are certain gods that can kind of move through all of them. So I try on purpose to create a lot of movement through the work.
Well, just remind everyone how tall this piece is.
Oh, sorry. It's 90 inches tall and 20 inches wide. And a lot of times what I do with my prints in my series, they all fit together. They fit together. So there's an amount of prints that go with this. So it can be 60 inches wide and 90 tall. So there's other parts that can go with this or not.
I love that.
And that kind of echoes again, so that you can do this and repeat if you want.
So Caroline, in a quest for understanding this as a printmaker, is this one sheet of paper, or are you attaching sheets?
This is 3 panels, and it happens to be printed on 3 separate pieces of paper. But if you had a big enough press, you could print it together.
Got it.
Pretty fantastic.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Caroline?
Well, you did get some response, Andy. You got 4 of them that say fiddleheads.
There we go. That's what I meant to say.
So there's that answer. And then there's also a tremendous amount, Caroline, of very wonderful positive responses to your work. One of them is from Marn. She said, I feel the different realms activated in the work, such as intricate detail, love the vertiginous quality. In other words, right, going from.
I just saw someone, sorry to interrupt, I just saw someone in the comments talked about the ahupapa, and that is also in this work. And for people that don't know that concept, in dividing up land, typically in the Hawaiian culture, you would get a piece of the mountain all the way down to the ocean, and it would be sort of like a pie shape, or, for not a great word. And then you were able to fish and then farm and then hunt. So that's also, someone pointed that out, and that's also reflected in this work, this idea that you have, and it's easier on an island to kind of understand this idea.
So that's the Kumulupo? Is that what that is, Caroline?
Sorry? It's Ahupua'a.
That is the Kumu.
Yeah. Diana Nicolette talks about it in her chat.
Okay, got it.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Caroline. I love this piece. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And
thanks, everyone.
We're gonna spin around in the gallery and look the opposite direction.
Yay.
And now we are looking at Dina Klein's painting. And off in the distance, at the end of the gallery, you can see Lori Sumier's work. We'll get to her in a bit, and also Val, I think that's Val. So we are going to, do we have Dina on the line?
I'm here.
Awesome. All right, let me see if I can find the button here. There we go, there's your painting.
So first of all, I'm so excited and I'm a little nervous, and this is my first time showing a piece in a space like that. I've only shown in a couple galleries, but nothing like this. So I'm super excited. And thank you to Andy, and also to Joy, who's been basically my therapist the last week, trying to not be stressed through all of this. So thank you to both of you. So this piece is the last in a series that I made called Trying to Believe. And some of you have seen it in my studio. So it all started on a sunrise flight into Amsterdam. I was with my love, and our flight was going to land at around 6 in the morning. And when we were descending, the colors started to appear, and it was just like crazy magic sunrise. And so I start bawling because it's just so beautiful. And this was all before COVID, and I was so excited about the trip. It was sort of one of those moments where nature slams into the emotional side of you and reminds you that ultimately the world is a good place, and we're so lucky to be alive and experience it all. And so I just was thinking that there was nothing closer to heaven than this particular moment, and that started me on this winding journey into questioning the existence of heaven and wanting to create that in my work. And it's safe to say that I still have no idea. So I guess you'll have to figure that out on your own. But we do have this painting now because of that journey. And so, yeah, I hope it just is a little reminder for everyone to stay optimistic when the world looks like it's on fire. There's these beautiful moments in your lives that you can sort of cling on to and remind yourself that it's not so bad. So
remind everyone how large this painting is.
It's a monster. It's like 10 feet long, I think. And I had to ship it over to the Big Island from Maui, rolled up, and we had to work with a framer who was just lovely. So thank you for everybody that helped me coordinate that.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous painting. I was hoping that I had a second install shot. Let's see what I have. Yeah, there's another version of it, kind of looking the opposite direction.
Yeah, really? It's also kind of cool because it's sort of hard to see in photographs of it, but when you're standing in front of it, this unintentional optical illusion sort of thing starts to happen. If you stand in front of it, it kind of almost starts to move, almost like you're in the clouds, but you got to be there for that one. So.
It does. It feels like when you, it feels like it's breathing.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Dina?
Marn commented, she said, Dina, you are stealing Mother Nature's job. It is truly breathing and moving. This work gave me a big involuntary sigh. Thank you. And they go on from there.
I was a witness. I heard her. Yes. The second the image came up, I heard her. She just let out the deepest sigh. It was amazing.
Yeah, you got a lot of support, Dina. Bravo.
Great job. All right, let's keep moving on here. And right next to the piece, and this is Val Kim's piece. And let me see if I can find the actual, there we go. Are you there, Val?
Okay, got the mute off. Well, you know, through this whole COVID time, I've been more than anything writing and reading and totally going inside, it seems to me. And I couldn't kind of figure out what I was going to do to share, because I thank you, first of all, Andy, Margot, Scott, you guys did an incredible job, and I love the way it's hung. Everything is so beautiful. It really looks so great, and I'm so pleased to be right next to Dina. Wow, that's just such a great, we're both, it's very, she's talking about going to someplace that's really beautiful, and remembering that in this time that's so tough, that there's just the most incredible places to go in our lives. And some of that is inside, some of that is outside. So a lot of, for me, was this piece is called Full Moon, and it was about waking up at 3 in the morning and being drawn to the window and not being able to tear myself away. And this was during a time when I couldn't sleep very well. I was like, go back to bed, you gotta get some sleep, because I was gonna get myself sick. I couldn't sleep, but I was totally drawn to the outside, and so I wrote about it. And by the time I was done, I was remembering how incredible it is to be on this planet, and how we're actually so connected to everyone, to the whole universe. Actually, we're looking here at a full moon, and on the other side of the world there's a sun that's lighting that full moon, and we're reflecting the full moon in the leaves and the little cups of you know, of leaves in the garden. And it just made me think of the whole circus that is this planet, that is us being on this planet. It's you know, it's something you can't really, you always forget, but it's so important to remember, is that we're all connected. You know, we all came from an explosion in space. We're all stardust, and we're all part of each other in the time of all this division. So anyway, so putting photographs together with images, I mean with words, it's very tricky, because I always think, don't be in advertising, you know. So I decided to put material together and then make a scroll. And so I cut some bamboo, and you know, all you guys are great artists. You glue things, you put things together. Well, it's terrifying for a photographer to go out there and like cut wood and sand shit, you know. It's really something. But tying things, and yeah, anyway, so that was really fun. And to try and to get a feeling of dimension out of those images, I layered prints on prints. And so anyway, so that's some of that material from Dragon Mama in Hilo. If you guys know that store, she's got the most amazing material from Japan. Yeah, so anyway, so that's it.
Thank you, Val. I love this piece so much. And today I actually was talking about it with some friends, and I was having a fantasy of seeing these images in video and film, and, you know, visually seeing the curtain moving in the wind and hearing your voice recite the poem and recite the words. And I hope that you and I can work together in the future on maybe making that happen, because I would love to see these as short films. I think they would.
Andy, it's so funny that you would say that, because I am learning Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro, which is the iMovie version in Windows. I'm doing that very slowly, but that's what I intend to do. I want to do my voice over the images and making little, like,
really stunning. Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, that's exactly my next step. That's what I want to do.
I just want to say that I've known Valerie since we started school together in the 7th grade, and I've watched her evolve all of the variants that she's been through. And when she sent that video to all of us to show us and introduce us to the show, and that the poem that she read in that video just completely spoke to my soul. And I was just I was uplifted and hopeful, you know, in all that we're going through. The language is just mind-boggling, you know. But rare is the morning where I reach high, when I find my fingertips dancing toward the sky, stretching to touch the trails where birds have been. I know it can't be true, but I wonder anyway. When they soar songs into the air, do they not know sadness? And just like that, I'm welcome to the morning. And the locks on my heart fall open, and we have this little piece of hope, and from little old Val. She just gives us permission to unlock our hearts and keep hoping. So thank you, really, thank you so much.
Thank you, Val.
And it is a beautiful video, Val. It's beautiful, and a lot of people are asking that they hope they get to see the video.
All of the artist videos will be posted on the Kipaipai website this next week. We are leaving that to the State Foundation to take a look at those first before we post them publicly. But as soon as they have had a chance to look at the work, then we'll post them publicly. But they will be up while the exhibition is up.
That's
exciting. We're also going to post them on the Kahilu TV site once that gets launched. And we really hope to share them with the schools here on the island and to provide them to people that are homeschooling and to teachers to show what local artists are doing.
So good.
Yeah, that'll be great too.
Yeah.
So can the rest of the artist community see the videos through the theater's website, Margot?
I believe so. Yeah, I think we're going to make those free and open to the public. There'll be a subscription side of it, but that will be a public side of it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll let everyone know about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Okay, we're gonna move through this suite, and we are now at Lori Sumier's piece. Are you there, Lori?
Yes. Hello.
Oh, good. Hi. Long time no see. So Lori had a live Instagram feed right before this talk, and was really nice to see her working live and showing her process, and also getting to see a little corner of her studio on Oahu. I know a lot of people are interested in seeing the artist working, and also, you know, where you work and what's around you while you're working. But thank you for joining us, and why don't you tell us about this painting?
So this is the first of a very big series. So the series is called 1000 Palila, and I've been working on a documentary about this bird for about 8 years now. And this is a documentary that is telling the story of the near extinction of the Palila, and also a lot of people who worked very, very hard to save it. And the story is told from the perspective of the bird. And this is an actual still from the animation in the film. And so I realized I had actually never painted a Palila. Like I had, like the movie, I've been like Palila. I'm like, you know, I haven't actually painted the bird. So I thought I should do that, because I am drawing it in animation, but having an actual painting would be really cool. And so there are 1,000 birds left, and I thought it would make sense to actually represent every single individual that's left in the wild. That's how many birds there are total, just 1,000. And I said, I can paint 1,000 birds, that I can do. And so I had these really cool, it's hard to see in these images, but these drawers that the Bishop Museum was getting rid of held Hawaiian birds, and they let me take a bunch of these palettes, and they are about the size, about 3 by 2. And I said, you know, I want to do something with them. And I said, oh my gosh, there used to be birds that lived in these. I should paint birds on the backs of them. So I left all of the hardware of the original drawer there, so you can see what it was before I transformed it into a painting surface. And then I covered it with Japanese washi paper, and then painted a portrait of one of the 1,000 birds. So I'm really approaching this series it's a single one of thousands of birds that are left. And I've collected a bunch of photos from all my scientist friends and birding friends who have photographs of the birds to have a really diverse group of animals to work on. So this is the first one, and yeah, I think it's, and the scale of it is that it's the size of a human. So if we were bird size, or the bird was bigger, like we could look at it in the eye and feel like it's an individual.
These are great. I love this. I don't think everyone knows about your documentary work and the animation that you're doing right now with the specific film. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So the film is half animated, half live action, and that has been my practice as a documentary filmmaker. I make hybrid films, and my films are about conservation of native Hawaiian species. And I presented a trailer or a short portion of the film when I exhibited at Lancaster Museum of Art and History. And yeah, and so we are about halfway through finishing the film, and we have a rough cut of 42 minutes. And I'm really excited to just, I mean, I feel like all my energy right now is just Palila. So it just made sense for me to make artwork about it as well.
A lot of things happen very quickly over this weekend and the next few days and the next few weeks.
There's Charlotte there. Can you mute yourself, Charlotte?
President Trump, former Vice President Biden will debate Tuesday night, 9 p.m.
Well, I don't know how to. All right. Well, thank you, Lori. Does anyone have any questions for Lori?
Well, she's got some very supportive responses. One of them is from Diana, who says that she's overwhelmed with the love over you, Lori's devotion for the bird, which I think we all respect immensely. And also you having a lot of response for producing 1,000 paintings of this bird.
Oh, I mean, I would say one of maybe a slightly ironic thing is when you do animation, you're doing thousands and thousands of drawings. So in my mind, like, this isn't so different from the animation. It's just that I'm doing it at a much bigger scale, and I get to spend a little more time on it than I would in an animated frame. But because I will, at the end of the movie, we'll have, like, I don't know, probably at least 10,000 frames of animation. So
wow.
Yeah, this seems easier compared to how much work it's going to take to animate, because I think it's almost 30 minutes of animation in the film.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you so much. And we're going to spin around here. And now we have Diana's work. Are you there, Diana? I thought she was on here.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
And let's see. Are you muted? We can't hear you.
I wasn't talking yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diana Nicolette Gian. I live in Honolulu. I'm a lens-based artist. And this work is my newest series. It's really a eulogy to that which is being lost about Hawaii in light of all the development and other sorts of land takeovers that are happening mostly for foreign investors and tourists. So I took these shots in and around the Hamakua coast and Hilo last year in 2019. I was going through a very difficult time in my life, personal life, and Douglas Beasley, who runs Vision Quest workshops and Shots magazine, had gave me a fabulous opportunity to attend his Images of Gratitude workshop on the Big Island. And I just went, and I was determined to get myself out of my usual box and to take different sorts of photographs than I usually take, even though I used the same sorts of processes to take them. I'm not a big landscape photographer, but that's, what I was presented with. And I think that because I was going through all this personal grief, what I tended to focus on was all the loss, because that was dovetailing my experience of the landscape with my experience in my personal life. And that's what I'm hoping that people feel. There's this paradise paradox. You can afford to live here, but you can't afford to enjoy it. And tourists have a certain kind of identification with what Hawaii is that it really isn't anymore. It's high rises and multi-million-dollar condos. But in the tourist mind, there's this sort of old Hawaii sort of romanticization, and I was trying to capture some of that because that's what's being lost, that and our sort of sense of aloha that's going along with knowing people who live next door to you, etc. I want to thank you, Andy, for this opportunity. Thank you to Margot and Scott for installing the work. And Joy Ray, I think I heard you help too. And also I want to add that Scott and I went to the same grad school, which is really sort of unusual because it's in Maryland. And we both had the same thesis advisor, but we never met until Margot and I were in a Honolulu printmakers show together here some years back. So that's a really strange little coincidence.
Yeah, and it's great. I have only seen your, for the longest time I had only seen your work, and our thesis advisor, Kathy Odell, was always like, have you met Diane yet? Have you met her yet? You know, and yeah, it was great to finally meet her. And yeah, and this is our first exhibition together here in the state, which is really exciting. I've got a lot to say about your work. I can't wait to talk about it with you.
I think it's interesting, the comment that you made, Diana, about the paradise paradox. You know, that's heavy. And I think it comes through in your imagery.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for the lovely comments, and to Bailey. They are not film, they are iPhone.
Wow.
And they're painted on the surface too, or treated on the surface with a wax kind of wash. And they do a really interesting thing with your eye where they almost look out of focus up close, and then they come into focus when you back away, and it kind of plays back and forth. It's, you know, that references memory. And yeah.
The focus is actually in the shot though, because I attach various devices to my iPhone.
Okay.
To get the look of a view camera and selective focus.
And then you coat the surfaces with encaustic, is that right?
It's not encaustic in this case, it's cold wax.
Cold wax. Wow.
So it's very thin, but it does that same, it speaks to that sort of distancing from this past, to sort of put a layer between the photograph and the work and the viewer.
Well, be sure, Diana, that you look at all your comments. They're all short and to the point and very favorable. You got a lot of support.
Thank you, everyone.
We love this work. It's fantastic. And of course, you know, I come from a photography background, so have a special love in my heart for the captured image. And it's not a lot of people can use the new technology and create work that feels like it is on film and feels like the same dynamic that film captures, and that is the light and the dark. And you know, all of our electronic technology doesn't do that. It records an image differently. It doesn't record light. It records it in a different kind of technology. And so for her to, I think Diana's work captures these pieces. They feel very film-like with technology. I love her process. I think it's really fantastic. And we are gonna spin around again one more time. And we are looking at the long view of this gallery. And then off to our left here, last but not least, is this beautiful ephemeral installation by Donna Zarbin-Byrne. Are you there, Donna? I know she's in. Oh, there you are.
There she is.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I'm used to being last with my name starting with Z. And it's been wonderful to see this fabulous group that I've been so fortunate to be among. And I thank you, Andy. I'm a new Kipaipai member, and I just, yeah, life has not been the same ever since. And of course, without further ado, I just have to thank everyone for their patience in installing this not so easy to install piece. Well, in the spirit of the why statement, this piece has really been about thinking about humans that have been making ceremonial objects since the beginning of time. And I imagine them looking across the ocean and up into the heavens, contemplating the unknown. And I've been inspired by ceremonial objects as the history of my own art making is as a ceramicist and a vessel maker. So I have found myself over the years making vessels in all kinds of materials. And the last few years, I started working in small metals, and I started this piece with the bronze bowl that I raised myself. And it's a very laborious, almost ceremonial process. And I've been inspired by creating objects and installations that transform mystery into poetic form. And I'm also really interested in religious art and the kind of iconography that comes out of the shared connection that we all have through time and kind of seeking answers. And so I said it started with this bronze bowl, and then it ended up becoming these kind of like wing-like prayers. And in particular, they're fabricated soldered bronze, and then it's encaustic on paper with photo transfers of the Psalms. But I spend a lot of time in Hawaii, and the branches are from Maui, and they're kind of like this intersection of where the commonality, the universality of cultures come into play. So for myself, it's my own personal iconography, but I'm interested in how Hawaiian and Jewish history connect to place, the plight and longing for home, aloha, shalom, having so many cross sections of meaning, and the ritual and belief that inspired bowl of prayers are from palms and seeds and wings that float and ascend into the atmosphere. And I try to involve the viewer to imagine and reflect and not say a specific didactic message, but for people to have an experience with the work. And kind of on that note, it's hard to tell maybe until you see it in person, but they're like carefully engineered to be on the wall in such a way that the movement of people and an air vent kind of makes them almost just like tremble. It's very subtle. And I'm working over the last few years, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about how things attach to the wall or how they stand in space and how they move subtly. And, you know, I want them to have that kind of feeling. And so I'm working more on some other ideas of how to get pieces to move kinetically on their own in space. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what I'm working on.
This is such a beautiful piece. And I love the connections that you're making both with your own heritage and the Hawaii history and the heritage of Hawaii. I think it's really important. We forget that. We come here with our own customs and our own rituals, and we forget the native people that they also have those, and being able to make that comparison and being just aware of those practices is really important. Thank you, Donna, so much. This is such a beautiful piece. Another one. I'm like, the whole day I've been saying it over and over again. This is such a beautiful piece. This is such a beautiful piece. But I really truly mean that from the deepest part of my heart. I'm very married to all of this work and all of you as makers and part of our Kipaipai Ohana. And that's it for our presentation today. And I wanted to thank everybody. I probably should say, does anyone have any questions for Donna? I'm sorry, I kind of jumped the gun there.
Well, she does have a lot of comments. One of them is pointing out how she has placed the sacred text on these delicate forms and recognizing that this is a very old culture and how to honor that.
And the materials in person really communicate a lot of the feelings and ideas you were talking about, the wax and the wire and the metal. And yeah, it's really a beautiful kind of ethereal piece. And I love it across from Dina's painting. They really feel like there's a really nice dialogue between those two.
And also, that's Stephanie's in the back, isn't it?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to the Hui on Maui because, I mean, I work with so many materials and I'm kind of like a jack of no trade at all. I just get an idea and I want to do it. And I came to the Hui and JB Ray in the metals department, he was the first one, and I had tried in other places that who didn't make me make rings and set stones. And he just, you know, helped me sail to learn this craft to express what I've been trying to do. And these pieces don't have casting, but I've been doing a lot of casting like directly from nature. And he's just been a real sport in helping me pull off things that aren't done a lot there. And he's just been, you know, amazing. And so, yeah, the Hui's a fabulous place, and I can't wait for things to get back to normal so we can all work again.
All right. Thank you so much, Donna. I do want to, and I was going to try to unshare this. I don't know if I can. Do you see where it says unshare? Optimize screen share. Stop sharing, but it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay, stop sharing.
Hello, everyone. Great exhibition.
Yeah, so for those of you who are on island right now, you should definitely come see this show. It is so beautiful. I know several of us will be there tomorrow. Kahilu is open Saturday and Wednesdays from 10 to 1 to the public. Remember that they're only allowing 10 people in at a time in the gallery, and you do need to be wearing a mask and practicing social distancing. But we do encourage you to come see the show. I think in person, it makes so much more sense. I can't wait. I'm going to be there tomorrow. I will take some more pictures and post them, but I do want to thank all of the artists and our whole Kipaipai Fellows Ohana, how special you are to each and every one of you, to me, and to each and every one of you. We truly have become a family. There's been so much support and lively conversation. I know I really look forward to our Friday night happy hours on Zoom every Friday night. And if anyone is interested in becoming part of our family, we do have a website, kipaipai.com. You can go and see what our programming looks like and what we're doing and how you can get involved. Again, thank you to all of the artists who participated in this beautiful show. And we're excited to move forward with more programs and more workshops and more opportunities for our Hawaii Ohana. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
And with that, I'm going to go have a cocktail and watch the sunset.
Aloha.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Aloha.
you.
Bye.
That was great.
Thanks,
Everyone,
everybody.
thank you.
Mahalo nui.
Thank you.